I hadn't really wrestled him before. I think I had wrestled him in a practice before a long time ago. So I was very interested to see how he felt. He has a bunch of different snaps and drags and things like that. So being in there, wrestling with him, getting a feel was really good. And I learned a lot from just seeing how he did react to certain positions. Um, yeah, I don't know. He's definitely has an interesting feel.
Your ability to finish quick, everyone talks about it. That is against a scrambler even more impactful. So when you're going into a match like that, and it doesn't have to be Keegan, it could be anyone. Do you know in your head these are my top 3 attacks, or you're just kind of feeling it and seeing what comes to you?
I mean, I have like my favorite attacks that I hit, but I kind of just whatever I feel at the moment that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point is just trying to finish fast, especially against someone you can scramble and stuff. But I definitely think that wrestling and preparing for Keegan, I feel like I'm confident in my scrambling ability and I have a lot of different areas I feel good in. But I feel like no one really gets to see that. That's what I was kind of talking about. My coaches are like, you can scramble. Like, you're a really good scrambler. You have different abilities. I just for some reason I just don't get into a bunch of scrambles or these crazy, highlight scrambles or crazy stuff like that in my matches. But I do have a high level ability of scrambling and I have a high level ability of defense and reattacks. And those are also things that I don't feel like people get to see that much. So
What about the riding? That was surprising to everyone. Not that it was that you can ride, but just like you made it a point to do it. And that was like, wow, this is a whole new David Carr we're seeing.
well I think the the option to trying to ride him was like he's like really good on top as well, and he rides a lot of guys. But that's an area that I feel pretty strong at as well. Like I feel like that's something that St. John really helped me out with of getting good on top. And so yeah, that was a big part of the match. I think that was huge. Just being able to hold him down and ride him out for the rest of the match.
And enemy territory. It was kind of like random. It was like a Wednesday duel, and like basically the duel season was over. I mean, and that just shows Coach Dresser, that schedule is no joke. Like that schedule is ridiculous that Iowa State runs through. And like again, it's like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Basically, the dual season's over, and you guys are going right at it. I just can't tell you how much we all appreciate that. And also another stat I found: you wrestled in 19 of 19 duels this year, and that is that's a salute, brother, because we don't see that enough, and we need more of it. Now, going into match two, what was different for you in that match versus the first one?
So match two, I got a feel for him. I kind of understood um, his match management, his pace, his drags, his swim high crotch, some of his techniques. I kind of gotten a feel for, and so going to the next match, I was just more of just okay. I know what I need to do. I'm gonna focus more on what I need to do, and not really worried about what he's gonna do, and just wrestle. Just put myself in wrestling positions, see what happens. Just wrestle. Um, and so yeah, and it was at Tulsa, like the Big 12 championships were at Tulsa, and then nationals were at Tulsa. So we like went there, went back, and then went back. So I like that the way that the Big 12 is set up is kind of like a mini nationals. You run out on a red carpet or a green one, and you kind of wrestle. Like the stage, the set is similar. It gives you kind of a cool feel.
Yeah. And it's the way that match ended, electricity. I mean, that is one of the craziest endings I've ever seen. I didn't rewatch it this morning, but if I remember correctly, it would ended in a pin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in overtime. I was looking for a takedown, and I don't even remember. I just remember it ended up getting to a cradle from the single leg, and then I'd roll them through to get the pin.
Wow. Was it odd for you to like game plan for one person over like the last 4 weeks? Or were you guys trying not to game plan just for Keegan? Because it was like basically a 3 week period and you wrestled all three of these matches.
Yeah, so I wrestled. Yeah, we had wrestled a bunch in like a sprint amount of time. It would have been interesting if we would have wrestled in the beginning of the season, middle, and then at the
Yeah.
end. We wrestled in like just a quick, so we had to keep making quick adjustments and quick things that my coaching staff had saw, and like things that they were just like, hey, be aware of this. Make sure you're being aware of this. Make sure you keep doing this. And so a bunch of quick adjustments, and then nationals was just right around the corner. And then I was like, all right, one match at a time. And then
Yeah.
once Keegan. We'll just have to go back over what we had worked on.
It's almost like a prolonged Olympic trial finals because you guys wrestled 3 times in call it 4 weeks, and you guys are so high level. You know it's going to come down to you two, and so I had to imagine like your freshman year when you win, and even your sophomore year when you got third. It wasn't like there was one guy who you're gaming for all year, and this just kind of came up at the end of the year, and it's like it's had to be a different experience just to focus on one person so much.
Yeah, I mean, the weight class is so deep. I try not to put too much emphasis and focus on Keegan O'Toole. I kind of just, that was just a match that I knew when I moved up to 65 that I was looking forward to the most because of his style. And so, and because he presents a lot of different problems for people. So that was definitely a match that I had circled and definitely have a match I'd look forward to. But I definitely respected a lot of the other competitors at the
Sure.
weight. And like I said, Quincy Monday, Dina Mitty, all these other guys, they're tough. So I definitely
Shane Griffith.
Jane Griffith, national champion. Like I said, the weight class I could go on just from the top 8. All those guys are all very good wrestlers. So
Yeah.
um I definitely respected them as well and knew what they had to offer. I just knew that when I'm training and it's late and I'm working hard, I know I have one person in the back of my head, and that's O'Toole. And I have one more year, and we'll have some more battles. But he was definitely a person that pushed me a lot this year.
Potentially 3 more matches. We could be so lucky as wrestling fans. Now, the way you handle the match just speaks to why you're, one of the premier wrestlers of our time and just a role model for everyone. It's like you went back to something you said earlier, and I've heard Aaron Brooks say this. I've heard Snyder say this. Wrestling doesn't define you. So take us through like Sunday morning, you're in Tulsa, you're waking up. How are you processing that loss and how are you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, if the worst thing that happens to me is a wrestling match, I'm blessed. To lose a wrestling match, it's a sport, and you put a lot into it. But at the end of the day, it's just you got to look at it objectively, as my dad says, and look at the areas you can get better in. What were the things that you were thinking? Evaluating that, and then at the end of the day, just be like, all right, I can't change it now. I can only get better. And adversity, weakens the weak and strengthens the strong. So I've found a lot of peace afterwards that, hey, I worked extremely hard. Um, the match didn't go my way. There's some things I should work on, things I can get better in. But ultimately, grateful for the season I had. Grateful for a good competitor to push me. That's the reason I came up to the weight to get pushed, and I got pushed. And excited for the future. And so,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen, man. It's so awesome to have you up at 65. I was gonna ask you, 157, was that a tough pull at the end there?
I will say that was one of the more brutal cuts that I had to make. 57 just, yeah, that was a really hard cut. So
Like,
I think
like
I managed pretty well, but it just started to get pretty tough.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just gonna say that Thursday night, 2 years ago, when you were upset, like you have to come back and make weight, and you come back like a champion and get third. But that night, that was a Thursday night.
Yeah.
That cut that night must have been that's probably got to be one of the worst ones.
Yeah, that was probably the worst day. One of the worst days in wrestling I've probably ever had was probably that Thursday night. I don't know. That was a lot of. I didn't even want to lose weight. I was just so like out of it. It was just crazy.
Night and
But
day difference from after losing to O'Toole to losing to the Oregon State guy.
oh yeah, I mean, I think another thing is like I feel so grounded in my faith and who I am as a person, my identity. I know no matter what someone says or what people think, I know who I am in Christ, and so it's not really a big deal. I think I was definitely strong in my faith, and I think that was just a big test from the Lord to see. Let me see how you're going to respond to this. Like you say, you trust me. You say you trust in the Lord. Now let's see how much you trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if you can go back to your hotel room, lose your weight. Let's see if you can handle this the right way. And that was a blessing because I think it made me a lot tougher. I realized a lot of things about myself. And the match losing in NCAA finals, it sucks. But like I said, losing a wrestling match isn't the end of the world. It's just something that you got to get through and get better at.
Well, it's a great perspective, and I'm so glad that the wrestling champions of this era are not the people who are saying if you lose a match, it's like a death in the family. It's like it's not even
No,
close to the same thing. It's
no,
ridiculous.
I know it's not. To me, it's not that big a deal. I mean, I like I said, I take wrestling extremely serious. I take my matches serious. It's just wrestling's not all of me. I have my family, my faith. Those are more things that I kind of focus on and continue to build as a person. And I enjoy pushing myself and competing for sure. But it's definitely not life or death. It's definitely not all or nothing. It's just it's a match. Like it's a wrestling match. So it's a sport. So